My name is Alan Z. I'm a hip-hop artist and actor and also a moderator for this panel. I just want to do a room check real quick. Who here is a fan of Demon Slayer? Who here is a fan of the Owl House? Who here is a fan of Attack on Titan? That's good because the guests here have all done work on those shows. So introducing Johnny Bosch, Sarah Nicole Robles, Brandon McInnes, and Griffin Burns. Make some noise.
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Who's a fan
Thank
of
you,
Genshin
guys.
Impact? All right. We missed that one.
I knew I forgot that one. I'm sorry. You guys, you have too many credits. I'm sorry. So let's get started with just a simple question. Like, I want to get back to like the early days of your careers. So, could you guys describe the first breakthrough moment you had in voice acting?
Breakthrough as like career or like I realized I had an epiphany?
Either one.
I don't have an answer.
Just clarify.
Just clarifying. Epiphany?
I guess like a moment where like it doesn't have to be like the biggest break, but it could be one where it leads to the moment where you're like, oh, this can be a thing.
I think mine was my first My Hero panel, because up until that point I had done work, but I didn't. It's hard to conceptualize just how popular these shows are. We have no control. Our job is to live truthfully under imaginary circumstances inside of a padded room, right? That's what we're focused on. That's the gig, right? But I think the first time I sat on a My Hero panel, as you know, after voicing Sir Night Eye, I realized, oh, this is big. This is a thing. There's some responsibility here. There's a fandom, you know. So that was probably mine.
I think for me it'd be the first convention I went to, and I saw people dressed up as Vash. And then I was like, this show might be bigger than I think.
I'd say when I joined TikTok and overnight I had 50,000 followers in one day. I was like, what's going on?
Yeah, I definitely had no idea what Owl House would be. And yeah, it was like the episode came out and they were like, you should make your social medias public. And I was like, why? No one knows who I am. And then, yeah, overnight I had like thousands of followers. I went from like 12 to that. So I was like, who are these people? What's happening? So they can't be confused.
How do they find me?
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm so happy for all of you. You guys are happy to see them, right? This is a breakthrough moment right here too. So all you guys are known for very versatile characters with different ranges and moods. So I was wondering, could you walk us through the process of creating and developing unique voices for different types of characters for different types of shows?
Sure. I always like to, if we can, like see the animation, because I feel like, you know, like, oh, I can tell they're like really little or really big or really silly looking or really like stuck up looking, you know, and kind of start there with some choices. I always like to know where they're from because good accent dialect always helps. And then, yeah, I usually just like try some things and try to hear what sounds right with the text, like with the language, you know, because sometimes you make a choice and you're like, that's funny for one line, but it doesn't really carry. I don't know.
Yeah, the audition scripts that we get normally have either a photo of the character, hopefully, or some sort of breakdown description of their attributes. Are they sultry? Are they, I don't know, do they have buck teeth? Whatever. You make educated guesses, and honestly, that's a huge part of our job is just taking some stabs in the dark and making choices, bold choices, hopefully, and you know, once you might land the job. And then they liked what you did, but then they might modify it in the room. They might say, "We really like that, but we want you to make it slightly younger or whatever." So yeah, we're playing some guesswork with the limited clues that we have. The more clues we have, the better.
Definitely, and I feel like I can confidently say every single one of us up here has won a gig, done a voice for an audition, and then gone in and had the director just lead us in the exact opposite direction.
Loved what you did, but can we not do it? It's like, that was so exciting. None of that.
Yeah, I ask a lot of questions whenever I go in. I ask the director or whoever's in there, as many questions as I can about the character and the show. Where am I coming from? Where am I going? But I've definitely done that where I auditioned and I had had to do an Irish accent, and I spent a ton of time working on it, getting it dialed in, and showed up, and they're like, "Okay, so no accent."
Yeah.
And I'm like,
What?
and then it was like, I've just been working on it forever. And then it was hard to get rid of.
Oh no!
And then they're like, I still hear it. I'm like, okay.
I've had the opposite, where we got in there and they're like, we were actually thinking, like, what if she's Northern Colombian? Do you have that? And I was like,
Oh yeah, let me just
Think
get that.
Northern
Let me get that right
in
now.
a Colombian. And I was like,
Colombian.
oh, of course.
So specific.
Like, of
Very
course.
specific.
Give me 19 seconds and we'll do it.
That would give me a heart attack.
And, it does.
Yeah.
I got to do it.
Not everybody's great with accents. You
No,
don't, and you don't have to be, by the way.
Sometimes
you have
it
to-
doesn't have to be good.
Negotiate. Sometimes you're in the booth and you're negotiating. I was doing a children's audio book with tons of characters, and we get to this moose, this mayor who's a moose, and the writer was in on the session, the writer of the book, and he said, "All right, so she's going to be Scottish," and I was like, "Oh, I promise you do not want her to be Scottish. You don't want that. Irish? Can we do Irish? So
Yeah.
you compromise. You compromise."
That's true, yeah. It was like, how about this? How about we do a general this, or we could do this or this? Yeah, because like you said.
So as you can tell by the size of the room, a lot of people look up to you guys. So I was wondering, for you, like in your journey, have you worked with anyone you considered like your idol or your mentor?
My initial thought with that question was that when I was a kid watching cartoons, I wasn't too familiar with who the voice actors were, but I had some full circle moments when I worked on a pilot or a Cartoon Network thing or something, and the people in the booth were all seasoned and had been doing it for 30 years, maybe more. And then I realized that they were voicing the cartoons that I watched as a kid, and so they weren't necessarily like I didn't know them by name, but I was in awe that I was now working with these folks. But when I was new, I always looked up to anybody that had like a younger sounding voice that was working full time, because that's how I identify myself. I normally play like teens and 20s. So anybody that was in that demographic and making a living, I was like, oh my gosh, how did you do it? Where did you get your start? And so I don't have specific names, but that's
I've got one. Any Fire Emblem fans in here? Anyone know Fire Emblem? Yeah, so I'm the protagonist in Fire Emblem Engage, which was surreal. It's still very surreal. And the first scene in that game is just this extended conversation between Alir and Marth. And Marth is voiced by Yuri Lowenthal. And I didn't put two and two together as we were recording because it was a very fast process, and it was wild. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in a scene with Yuri Lowenthal. Oh my gosh. Fanning out a little bit. So Yuri Lowenthal for me.
Yeah, I feel like every single job, I'm like, you did what? I do my Google search before I got there. Like, one of my voice coaches is voiced half of my childhood. My first scratch job was Ron and John Musker, who did The Little Mermaid and every Disney movie. So that was wild. And obviously Wendy Malick. First time I met her in person, I was like, oh my God, I don't even want to make a direct eye contact. She's the absolute nicest. She's a goddess, but I don't know. Pretty, in awe. I think when you meet people, you don't know, you're not walking around with a resume stapled to your head. So you might know them from one thing, you don't realize they're in all this stuff. And then the more you get to know them, you're like, oh my God, everyone here is so talented. So it's a small world, and I feel like most people are pretty, I don't know, awesome. This is
I don't know. I don't have one.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Johnny.
Not
don't need
that I
no
don't have
idols.
mentors, but yeah, I just don't think about it. You
Yeah,
know,
no.
because I know that I'd freak out. When I went I auditioned for Lion-O and Thundercats, and just knowing that that project was huge to me as a kid when I watched it, I blew the audition. So I remove all of that whenever I do things now, and it's just I can't, because then I'd be too excited, then I can't focus, and then I just don't think about it. It's usually like afterwards that I'm like, oh, sweet.
Yeah.
And then I find out other people were in it, you know. And most times I'm in there by myself anyways.
Yeah, that's a good mentality to have. So I know the four of you, all of you guys have musical backgrounds. For example, Johnny, you have a band, Giants May Fall. Griffin, you have New Girlfriend. So I was wondering, how does music play into your career, if any, in terms of your voice acting?
I mean, I guess voice control and timing really is a big deal, I think. Timing mostly, I think, if, you know, just because I'm trying to figure out those flaps and stuff, like, I think we're all the same way now. We probably just look at it and go, oh, okay. And then you kind of negotiate where that pause should actually be, and then you extend certain things so it sounds natural. But I think timing for me, and then how you're going to color the dialogue.
I feel like there's music to jokes, you know, rhythm, timing. But yeah, there's like a music to the joke, just kind of like Shakespeare. And so you have to be able to hear that sometimes to be like, wait, that didn't sound quite right, you know? So I think there is some sort of like music that you're accessing when you're doing a scene and like building a joke.
I think there's also a common language among musicians that's cool to work with. Have y'all ever had a director that has been a musician and directed you in musical terms for a performance? It's only happened like once to me, but it was the coolest experience ever. I had I was working on a kind of a high fantasy video game, and this director who was a seasoned like rock drummer said, "Oh, can you give me that effort as a sforzando? Can you sforzando that effort?" And I was like, "What?" And I stopped and thought about it. I was like, "It's a sforzando." Like it was cool. I don't know.
I would not have known what that meant.
Oh, okay.
I would have just been like, sure.
Yeah, be like, absolutely, of course.
Hopefully this is what they're going for.
Yep, and then just taking a shot in the dark.
Those are the things that I look up afterwards.
Yeah.
Like
He
the
was
first
so
time I
smart.
heard staccato, I was like, what? Okay, let me figure that out.
I wanted to add that music and voice acting, music has come kind of back to me because of my voice acting, is what I'm trying to say. I was pursuing music a bunch as a teen in my early 20s, and then I was struggling to make a living when I moved to LA. And then once I established myself as a voice actor, I got back into music, and because of the Genshin fandom and Demon Slayer, now people listen to my music. So it's pretty crazy how it got put on pause. I found voiceover, and now especially the Genshin fandom checks us out on Spotify, and we have like really healthy numbers, and we have, you know, thousands of monthly listeners. So it's been really cool to then go back and pursue my music a little more seriously. We just played a show on Wednesday night in LA, and we're trying to play more shows at cons and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool.
Awesome. I just want to follow up on Genshin Impact. So, you know, like I know you make memes and TikToks out of your characters like Child. So what inspired you to go that route?
I'd say you all inspired me. There's a lot on TikTok, as you know. Just type in Genshin or Child, and you're going to get a slew of things. When I joined TikTok and I said, you know, tons of people started following me, I started seeing very interesting posts, and I started riffing on them. So that's sort of where some inspiration came from. Another place was Cameo. People would ask me, like, hey, could you do a cameo where you sing Fergalicious but make it Tartagalicious? And so I can't take credit for that. But that got the wheels turning. I was like, oh, I could do these cover songs. So honestly, it's you all who's inspired me to do these memes and cover songs and fun things like that.
Sarah, this question's for you. So, you know, you're known for the Owl House and Kanto. So how important is representation to you in animation?
Who cares? No, you know, especially loose. It's very important. It is like, I mean, yeah, if you're like a brown nerd or a nerd of color, we didn't exist for a long time. Like, even coming to these things, people be like, but you're like Hispanic. So it was really cool when I saw Loose for the first time, but I think I had just been so jaded and downtrodden. I was like, this isn't going to go anywhere. Like, they're going to cancel this. This isn't going to get picked up. And so I really didn't even like, I loved her and I felt seen, and Encanto, like, I adored her and I felt seen, but I really could never anticipate the warm welcome that they were all received with. So, you know, I'm not writing. I didn't create the shows. I say the words, but it's not like I got to choose them. You know, I was just fortunate enough to be a part of it. So, you know, it's really important to me to honor, you know, the cultures that I represent and honor the groups I represent, and that our team does so too. But, you know, we say the words. I'm not writing it. So.
Brandon, I have a question for you. So I read that your brother encouraged you to go into acting. So
Yeah.
I was wondering, like, what did he see in you that you weren't able to see in yourself that he kind of pulled out of you?
Well, I remember this time in my life very well. I was 26, and I had trained for musicals and opera in high school and college, but I very staunchly went the route of the engineer. I was a software engineer for about 6.5 years. And my brother, who's 9 years younger than me, was studying at a university that had an incredible theater program. And he's a big musical theater buff, and he was like, hey, so there's an open audition for Les Mis, which was the last show I did in high school, and I was Valjean. No 18-year-old should sing Valjean.
What?
Yeah, I sang Valjean at 18, and looking back, I'm like, ooh, that's not
You
vocally
can
healthy.
sing. That's not a little music.
No, it's a lot of music.
Oh,
But I was like, Jonathan, no, I'm an engineer. I'm an adult. I have to do adult things, and that would be so much fun, and I'd love to do it with you. But you know, like, I have to be boring and be an adult now. And he was like, well, too bad. I already signed you up for an audition slot, and you wouldn't want to make a bad first impression with the directors by no showing your audition, right? And I was like, oh, Jonathan, okay. And so I went, and I thought, okay, I'll just be in the chorus or something, and my brother will probably get a lead
I
or
couldn't get
something.
into the chorus of Les Mis.
Well,
be in the background.
and they kept calling me back over and over, and they cast me as Marius, and I was like, oh, what? What am I doing? Oh, okay. And like, I remembered my training and stuff, but it felt very weird because I very staunchly identified as an engineer then, you know. And my partner, my fiance now, Michael Tatum, you might know him. He was like, yeah, go do it, Brandon. What do you know? And in that world, I was like, you're the actor, I'm the engineer, you know. And so I did that, and then I started doing a lot more musical theater in Dallas, like regional. I was Clopin in the regional premiere of The Hunchback of Notre Dame, the Texas regional premiere, everyone. Sorry, I don't mean to brag, but...
Make some noise for Brandon's brother for helping Brandon.
Yes,
find his-
thank you, Jonathan.
Wow,
Thank you.
seriously.
That wasn't a lot of noise, John. Disappointed in all of you. No, I'm playing. Johnny, I have a question for you about your projects. So I know you worked on a short film called Arc Exodus, and now you're moving on to do the feature length. Could you talk to the audience about that?
Yeah. So in 2019, I'll try to make it brief. In 2019, I had spent about 10, 12 months prepping a film that we were going to shoot in 2020 in January, a feature-length action film. And a week before, my lead actor bailed, and I already had a ton of money in this project. And so I quickly shifted gears, and I contacted all these people I didn't know that had been paid by me. And I said, hey, so we can't do this action film anymore. We can't do the feature length, but we've already, got the time and certain locations and whatnot. And would you mind if we just shot a short film? And they're like, sure, what are we doing? And I was like, well, I'm writing it right now. So I spent a week to write like a whole new short sci-fi, totally different project. And now I'm like, well, I guess I should be the lead in this thing. And so I wrote this little short called Arc Exodus. And we shot that in January 2020, and then COVID happened, and then a lot of other pieces fell through, like my VFX guy couldn't do it anymore. So I taught myself VFX for 3 months, and I did the VFX on this film. So I did anyway. So I put together this little short, and it won a ton of awards. And so now that opened up a bunch of doors. And so now I'm like 90% done with, I went back in the original film we were going to shoot with some tweaks. We're about 90% done now. I just before, like I did a night shoot, 5 a.m. I finished and I returned to rental and then I came and flew out here. So if I look a little tired, that's why. But yeah, so we're shooting this feature length, and I'm about 90% done with it, and we've got a good chunk of action scenes to do, and so yeah, hopefully very soon we'll have a feature film.
It's awesome.
To show. Yeah, and it's just kind of a personal project.
I love how nonchalant you are about all these monumental things that are occurring and all that. Like,
You wrote
that's
a whole other
amazing.
script, and you're like, I guess I'll do VFX.
Yeah, it's just, it's one of those, you just do it.
Disagree.
And it's
Disagree. Not one of those things.
So you guys are known for like a myriad of characters. I was wondering, like, what character that you've worked on resembles you the most personality-wise? I'm sorry if I'm giving you guys like really hard questions.
I feel like each one of them, there's a bit of me in there. If I have to, for me, and I imagine like you guys are the same way, you have to find something believable in the character, something that you can attach to, So each character, even ones that are, nuts, you have to find some way to like relate to that character so that you can believe you're that character, and then you can be that character in that world, And, so all of them, in some way, I have to find some little piece that I can relate.
Do you guys have? You don't have to answer.
I agree with that. I mean, you have to imbue yourself into the character. Whoa.
These mics are angry.
I think it's just yours.
Did I say something bad?
Here.
That was the wrong answer.
That was the wrong answer, apparently.
We'll share this
I will
one.
stop.
Take that.
No,
That's fine.
does anybody watch Gretzko? Anybody? Okay, like Tadano to me is sort of my natural state of being. And then the teenage version of myself, I would say, is Jintan from Anohana. Anybody watch that one? No. Got it. All right. No, if I had to, isolate it into characters, those are the two I'd pick.
I think just as Johnny was saying, we have to find something that we connect to with every character. And that made me think of Gyutaro in Demon Slayer. Like, he's so angry and seething. And what I really focused on and sort of inhabited was, I was bullied a ton in elementary school for being like the nerd, and like I read a lot and I liked anime and so I inhabited that fully and got like really angry about it. And so that's where like Gyutaro's seething rage comes from, is me being bullied in elementary school. So that's kind of the stuff that I'm like, all of us have that, I'm sure.
Loose. It's pretty good. Yeah, Loose is really weird. I don't write anything. I improvise almost nothing. And my best friend will text me and she's like, I know you did that line. I was like, nope. Nope, someone else wrote it. So it's very cool. Like, obviously I'm not 14, but like, I felt very seen, like middle school Nikki, middle school nerd, like she got to have her moment in the sun and find friends that I didn't have in middle school. That's
You have friends now, though, right? That's
I
what's
have
important.
friends now. I found my people.
I'm gonna have one last question and we'll move into the audience. So you guys have mentioned like how dedicated your fandom is. Do you guys remember like a moment or like an interaction that really stuck out with you, with like, with your fans that you can share with your audience? It could be like,
many.
yeah, no, go ahead.
Someone brought me a child painting as Mona Lisa that was pregnant with an alien baby. That was a very special moment.
There's that.
I've got one. It's a little different.
A little different, huh?
Someone came up to my table earlier today. Brenda, named Brenda, who was dressed as Mirko. I don't know if Brenda's here, but
Brenda, you better be here.
Brenda, I hope you're here
Always.
because I couldn't stop crying while talking to Brenda. And this is one of those rare moments. Brenda told me that her her younger brother, Alan, has cerebral palsy. And he has pretty much never walked or spoken. He can't speak or walk, but he's obsessed with My Hero Academia. And he started walking a few months ago because of Deku in My Hero, because he always goes beyond and plus ultra and how much all these characters mean to him. And it was really difficult for me, actually, because I felt this crushing weight of responsibility. I don't know. It's that we don't think about this. We're trying to live truthfully in imaginary circumstances. That's what we're focused on. We're not using it to all this. And and of course, like we don't write these stories. We're helping bring them to life in line with the creator's vision and whatnot. But it was incredible. It was amazing. I would never think about that, but it happens. So yeah, it was cool. I don't know, it's not me. It was Alan. Alan did that. Alan's walking. He's doing the hard part.
I can't even say how generous like the Owl House fandom especially has been, and like kind, and the pandemic was rough, I'm sure, not just for me. And it was really hard, and there have been so many hard things these past decades and in America and the world. And I don't know, just all the people being like, even just saying like, this is a real comfort show for me. Like, that's like makes me, it just validates why I do what I do. And I'm like, well, if I can make like one person's day better, I did my job. If I could make one person feel seen, I did my job. And so the fact that, we all kind of got through the pandemonium together, it was just really meaningful. I have like had so many fans reach out on like Cameo and stuff, and like really say things too touching and kind. I couldn't compare them, but yeah, you guys are awesome. I have like a collection of 1,600 string beans now. She came out like this year, so I couldn't be more impressed and grateful. Like, yeah. Oh, I got my snake earrings on, my little beans.
I feel like every time I go to a convention, I do have these amazing experiences with people, and it's the same thing. We're just connecting with you, and I don't know. It's just cool that we can connect through this thing that we call a job, and I don't know. We're seeing it through different sides. Like we're on this side of the TV screen, and you're on the other one, but we can still connect with each other. And I do find many times where I will be talking to somebody at my table, and then my eyes are watering up, and I'm like, "What is?" And then I shut down immediately. I'm like, I can't let people see me cry. But yeah, I do. I constantly have these moments where I connect with people in just such a just a short interaction, and I feel like it's my purpose to connect with everyone, in some way, and it makes me feel like a part of this big thing, So we're all grateful to have you guys here, and thanks for coming, and just filling these seats is really just warms our heart, and we're just glad to be a part of your lives, and you're definitely a part of ours. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
And with that, we're going to open it up to the audience. So everybody can line up right there.
I love your look.
Is that mic working?
Yeah, you might want to check that mic.
Push. Let's be like.
Oh. Sammy, you want to take mine?
Okay. So actually, our first question is going to come from right here.
Hello.
Hello.
So my brother Jonathan wanted to ask this question, but we're all fans of all of y'all. But it's for Sarah. He wanted to know what's the most challenging episode you did for the Owl House.
Okay,
He's also
now,
dressed as Luke,
yeah.
so yeah.
Where are you at, brother? Oh, hey!
Jonathan's
look
over
at you,
there.
cutie, looking good. Love the look. It was definitely the finale. I mean, it's very meta. I was saying goodbye to all of you all, saying goodbye to Luz. That narration, saying like, The Boiling Isles, that magic is gone forever. But like, I can't even say it. I'm choking up. Yeah, that one. It was very hard. I love the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
My question is for Sarah. So, ironically, the development of Amity and Luce's relationship was very much aligned with my relationship with my girlfriend.
Cuties.
When they were
Congrats.
enemies, we were still friends. When they were just becoming friends, we were confused. And then right before they started dating, we actually started dating. So it was really important to me to like watch them.
Did you
grow.
fight a giant worm?
I mean, in
joking.
ways, probably,
Similarly.
like, yeah. But their relationship is very important to me because it kind of mirrors mine. But I wanted to ask you, what's your favorite line from Luce to Amity?
I have a list. You guys ask me so many cool questions, and I say the lines like 3 years ago, like I recorded, and then
know.
so I'm like, oh, I know it's sort of this. I wrote, what I wrote down most recently is like just when they're texting back and forth, and Luce has a fever, and she's like, "You're cute," and she's like, "You're rad," and I'm like, just little affirmations that I love you. I don't know, sweet potato. Oh, thank you for listening. I can't wait to pick flowers with you.
Yeah.
That one breaks my heart. I don't know. I hope that's a good enough
It's okay,
answer.
but
Thank
thank you.
Hey, is this working?
Yeah.
Okay, good. There's been like a lot of talk about the inclusion of Spanish like phrases and words, like when there are characters that speak both English and Spanish. And I was wondering, I know you said that you don't do much like improv, but do you ever have any like notes, or do you ever make any like changes to like any,
Yes, that's a good question. Yeah, we definitely argued about Spanish a lot because I'm Puerto Rican and Luce is Dominican. And so there's just like, there's all of South America. There's a million ways to say a lot of words. So even sweet potato, we were like, batata. Like, there's so many things. So, yes, we had to change some things. Ay, que lindo was my first one, and that one's very, that one was fun. And I think I've only had to translate like 1 or 2 lines. The real Luce, the IRL Luce, Luz Batista, she actually translates most of it to make sure it's authentic.
Okay.
She's Dominican.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I don't know if I answered your question. Started talking.
That's good.
It did.
Can you hear me? Oh, that's a little loud. This is for Brandon. First off, Sasaki Tamiano and Given are 2 of my favorite animes. I've watched at least both of them at least 5 times. But like all the time, they're comfort animes. But what drew you to those projects?
Oh, what drew me to Given and Sasaki and Miyano? I think, like, sort of piggybacking off of diversity and inclusion, I referenced my fiance, Michael, earlier, and so of course I was drawn to these stories, these BL stories, these LGBT stories, because I saw myself represented in them, right? But also when I became a fan of Given, I really thought we were never going to get a dub. I was like, oh, this is a gay show. It's not going to get dubbed. It's fine. It's fine. I accepted it. We move on. I did the covers of all the songs, and we released it, and it was fun, and we had this all like fan moment together, and we moved on. And the universe had other plans, because I got a call from a friend of mine, David Wald, who ended up being the director, and like, hey, Brandon, I'm the director of the Given dub, and I want you to be my Mafu. And I thought, wow, this is a turning point. Okay, all right, we're gonna have, like, Crunchyroll's gonna dub like a gay anime. Cool, let's do it. Awesome. And so I felt very seen and represented in that, and thought it was cool, because anime conventions and anime have always been a very like sort of non-standard space. It's not like your stereotypical path or like interest or whatever. So I'm glad to see that dubs are starting to reflect that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Afternoon. Okay. This one's directed toward all 4 of you. I've been looking into the voice acting world for a couple of years now. I've been auditioning left and right, but I've only voiced in like really small projects outside of this one game a friend of mine's working on. And so, what would you say would be the #1 thing that kept you all motivated in your early years of getting into the voiceover world, outside of maybe then moving to a whole other city and needing to, eat and live.
I don't know. I almost quit like 100 times. I think that's being an actor. Every day you're like, this is it. I'm not doing this again.
No more work.
Tired of being poor. But I feel like, the universe only gives you as much as you can take. Really, like right when you think you're about to like never work again, you get like a surprise residuals check, or you book a weird thing that turns out to be like a whole Disney Channel series. So like, don't, if your heart's in it, just keep remembering why you're doing it. And I had 6 jobs, like survival jobs. I think at one time I literally had 6. I was doing Postmates, working at the Apple store, the Container Store. I was bartending, and I was acting, and I like had no voice left by the end of it. But
Yeah.
you do what you gotta do, just keep swimming. It'll happen.
Keep swimming, swimming,
The
swimming.
hardest part about acting, I think, is the mental game, to just keep going, And I find that it helps to work on creative projects that you have control over. Because in acting, there's so much that you have no control over. Like, you're sending in auditions, hoping that a casting director will pick you out of the thousands and be like,
Right.
I want you,
I was just going to add that it only takes one job to make your life change. I mean, what keeps me motivated, what I love about this business, which is not for everybody, is the element of surprise. I don't know what's coming on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. You might get a call that you booked something, or that, the show you did 2 years ago is renewing, or whatever. So to me, that's really exciting. I like to live that way. And also, Brandon, you said this yesterday, it's a long game, especially with voiceover. You can do this for a long time. I mean, there's people in their 70s and 80s doing voiceovers. So
Right.
look at it that way. And look at people who've blown up in their 40s and 50s. Steve
60s,
Carell,
70s.
60s. I mean, if you stay in it long enough and you're talented and you keep working at it, you're gonna hit a lottery ticket. So just keep playing the game. Keep rolling your dice.
I agree with all those things. I also would just say, keep your eyes open for other things. You may think just voiceover, but then you might go like, wait, directing's kind of neat, or writing's kind of neat. So I would, anything that is still kind of creative, just keep your eyes open for the other things, and you can also fill those spaces, And the really great thing about now is that you can do a lot of your own stuff. If you're creative enough to come up with a character and a story, you can, if you can draw, or you find a friend that's an artist, then you create your own project, Now is the time to be able to do those things. You can just post a thing up on TikTok or YouTube, and it could become a thing. And you can start small.
A majority of the smaller stuff had been sibling projects, so I guess that does help.
Yeah, just keep plugging away.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello. So when you guys are in the booth or auditioning, what do you guys do to help dispel like any doubt or like from second guessing yourselves?
Magic. That's it. It's just
Next
magic.
question.
I think it's habit.
It
I
is,
think,
right? Yeah.
Because all of us, I'm sure, I don't mean to speak for everyone, but we've all had nerves in the booth, right? I mean, that's a fair.
Thundercats,
assessment.
yeah.
Never.
Yeah, Thundercats. Yeah, exactly.
Powerpuff
exactly.
Girls.
And
Sank that ship.
the more you do it, the more you get comfortable with having nerves, and it doesn't affect your performance.
I think you just got to accept that not every job is for you, right? Otherwise, there would be one person sitting up here, not 4 of us.
Yeah, that makes
So, like, go in there, do it your way. If they love it, great. If not, fuck them. That's what I tell myself. Like, I'm not the best at everything, and whoever gets it will be better at it. Sorry. It's a cuss word. There's littles. I'm very sorry.
Oh.
I'm from New Jersey.
yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, guys.
Hey, so recasting is a kind of normalized thing in the industry. I know like Griffin replaced Johnny as Nate in Yokai Watch. So it does happen. So when you're in the booth with the director, you've booked a voice match. How much leeway are you allowed to bring you into a voice match? So
It's so hard.
I know.
Oh my
I
gosh.
tried to bring none of me.
Yeah,
I don't know, like, I do good acting, but I try to absolutely, like, honor their cadences, right? And their choices. You accidentally slip through. I don't think anyone's actually, like, a perfect. But.
Yeah, so for Yokai Watch, I don't think I was asked to match Johnny. I think I was just, do the youngest voice you can possibly do. And it sounds somewhat like Johnny, but not exactly. I don't think I was trying to match him. But for a voice match audition or job, you are trying to mimic the cadence, the mannerisms, all that, and that is really tricky. And I will say, when you're auditioning for that, it's way easier when you're matching like line by line, but then they'll give you a couple extra lines to see what you do. Can you still sound like the character after you've done the ones where you already heard? So that's the trick. It's like, can you sustain this voice with new words, or can you just mimic what you already heard? And if you can do the latter or the former, then you can successfully voice match. But it's a really hard skill.
I always like to watch interviews with the people, even if they're not doing their character voice, because you kind of see the way they move their faces and stuff. I feel like that helps too, if you're stuck.
I skip those auditions.
I do too.
I'm like,
I never
nah.
do them.
I do lots of.
I can't voice match. It's stressful.
Well, they're not always great, but I do my best. And if they want it, they'll hire me.
All right, thank you.
First off, big fan of you guys. So my questions more relate to us as young writers, trying to get into the industry and so forth. I've spoken with so many people from almost all walks of life, LGBT, different ethnicities, and trying to learn more about this 1,000-year story arc of connecting to the human experience of life itself. And I understand that representation matters, but what can we as writers help you, the voice actors, bring out the human essential experience? Because I know that I have characters. Well, let me put it this way. There are characters that are different backgrounds, like Spawn. Spawn was one of my favorite superheroes as a little kid. He's a black soldier. I was just some stupid little redneck white kid. But yet I can connect to him. Static Shock. How many of you are like fans of Static Shock?
I love Static Shock.
Yes. And so for me, that I've studied for years upon years, I'll make this as quick as possible, I'm sorry. But I believe that the truest form of connection is the human soul, the human experience, because that's what I've heard from so many people from all walks of life. So again, how can we, help you guys to bring that human essence, especially the characters that y'all may not, personally. I remember, like you, Mr. Bosch, has said there are characters that you had to find some sort of relation to it. But I'm sure there were characters that you were still kind of like disconnected to a degree, right?
Yeah, I mean, but I have to find something.
Right.
Even if I have to make it up in my head, like a backstory.
Exactly.
I'll do that. If it's not there in the script, we do that as actors anyways. We create, not just our voice, but we have to know mentally where we're coming from. So I would think, there's a lot of things you could think about when you're writing, but just write what you want to see. Write what you want to, what movie, what film, what do you want to see? Write that. And then, if you're doing auditions, eventually you're going to find, like this film I just did, I wrote it, and I had a ton of auditions, and even though I put these words on page, it was the actors that came in that really brought it to life. That's where I saw the soul of the character, and then I rewrote those scenes based on what I saw them do. I'm like, this person can go a lot further. And so then I would adjust those. And then whenever I talk to my actors, since I was directing, I'm like, look, this is just a template. If you feel like you're going to do something different, I'd love to see that, and I let them color the page, whatever color they want to do. So it just depends on what you're working on. Just write what you want to see, and then hopefully you'll be able to fill in with actors that can, add all the colors.
Yes. I would argue read. If you want to know the black experience, read black writers. Read Octavia Butler. Read, like Maya Angelou. Like and the same thing goes for LGBT. Read Giovanni's Room if you want to understand the gay experience. Read that. That's what I think you should do as a writer.
And I think this isn't your job, but casting. I think casting that'll be their job. That like figuring out someone who's gonna take your character and take them to that next level too.
Yeah, write from your truth, whatever is authentic to you. I think we're all connected. So when you write something that you really believe in, that you have witnessed in your life, people generally can connect with it because it's part of the human experience. So as long as you're writing from what you know and not what you're just, I mean, I don't want to say don't write imaginary things because that's obviously that's part of it, but it needs to be somewhat rooted in something you know that you've experienced.
Yes, and like you said, and I'm sorry guys, like you said you want to just make one person day, that's my goal as well. I've had multiple suicide attempts in my life.
I'm sorry.
And I wanted to bring at least somebody to save someone's life with one of my stories, because that's what I want to cover. That's why I'm so persistent about the human experience, because I know things have been rough for everyone here, and I'm sure a majority of us have suffered from mental illness in some sort of way. So hearing you guys, experiencing your stories, what you gave life to, is that you guys are not just voice actors. You are basically part of something that do help so many people. I'm sorry. So thank you guys. Have a blessed day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Break a leg.
Hello. Just a bit of a preface. First of all, love you guys. You guys are great. As someone who double majors in journalism and film, I've learned over the past year that there's a sort of part of the process of making something where you just feel like you're going off, firing on all cylinders, and that's where, like, whether for me it's like doing a school project or YouTube, it's that moment where you hit something and you feel like you're firing and you're the best, pretty much. So whether it's voice acting or something else, has there ever been a moment where y'all have been doing your work and just feel like you're firing on all cylinders?
Yeah. Yes.
Always.
I think all of us have those projects. I mean, the last one I can think of is probably Gyutaro and Demon Slayer, screaming my lungs out and feeling like, I'm angry at the world, and I'm doing such a good job at being angry at the world right now. I'm slaying, like this is like that,
Yeah, I mean, I find that often, I think most recently would be Trigun, Stampede. I mean, it was something I did a long time ago, so being able to reconnect with this character in a somewhat different, alternate telling of it, I felt connected, You just find it, and it's like, it's like, oh, we just have to do one take of this, and it just felt like, we're good, we're moving on. You just lock into the character in the moment, like, let's keep moving, let's keep, feel it.
There's some directors that I work with that we just have a really good rapport and very comfortable in the booth, and they will help guide me in such a way that it just feels like it's effortless, and I'm in the right place at the right time doing the thing that I'm supposed to be doing. And so I guess in a way it's facilitated by somebody witnessing what I'm doing. I don't feel that way by myself necessarily, but when there's a witness to my work and they like what I'm doing and I like what I'm doing, that when it comes together like that, I feel like it's amazing.
I mean, sometimes I feel like I'm doing it, and then it's an audition, and it's not good. I think there's something to acting. I do like a lot of scratch stuff, and that's like a lot of like cold reading. Definitely, I'm not just acting is what I can do, but like you're really present, like hyper focused almost. So you're not thinking, you're just like there and reacting. I think that, yeah, I could definitely relate.
Thank you.
Okay, just let you guys know there's 5 minutes left, so I'm not trying to rush you, but just for everybody to know.
But we are trying to rush you.
But there's only 5 minutes.
What? You can lower that.
What was the role you were most excited about getting whenever you got it?
I did Scratch for Moana. Yeah, and that's like, Rana John. So I was like, this is crazy. That was cool.
Probably Fire Emblem for me.
I got cast as the Joker van in Bat Wheels, which is on Cartoon Network, and I've been wanting to do like recurring stuff on network shows for a while, so that's a big one for me.
I feel like there's a lot, you know. Try not to get too excited about them, you know, because then when it doesn't happen, then I get sad. And so I think just in general, I'm just happy to be working.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hey.
What advice would you give to someone who's a bit shy and very introverted as an up-and-coming voice actor?
I'm shy. I'm introverted.
Yeah.
Just do it over and over again, and you know.
And you kind of get, masking, I'm sure people know what that is here. You just kind of like, you build a tougher skin and you get your tolerance. Like my first con, like 90 minutes in, I had to like go shut all the blinds and like lay in the quiet for an hour and like de-stimulate because I was like, wow, it was a lot. And so like, it's not always easy, but it's a habit and you get better at like the things that make you uncomfortable because they are part of voice acting. Like, yeah, a lot of time you're alone in your padded room and that is, but like, so you have to be able to, you know, switch it up sometimes. So just keep doing it.
Thank you.
Hi. How do you handle screaming and yelling out in front of a microphone when acting?
I have a vocal coach because I have a raspy voice. I'll like if I'm not doing it right, it'll be gone if I scream. So I learned some like techniques I use.
Lots of support, lots of technique, taking care of your voice, hydrating, sleeping, all those things.
Yeah, limiting the number of hours of the session. Like if you have
Always.
a video game, try to get it capped at 2 if you're going to scream the whole
If they're
time.
SAG, they're always 2, and they should always be 2.
Yeah.
And if it's more than that, what is it? 5 minutes every hour? Break or
Something like that.
I
Don't be
don't know.
afraid to ask for breaks. You know, if you need it, just
Reset
say,
yourself.
I need a moment. But unfortunately, if you're screaming, you're probably gonna hurt your voice a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Especially on games.
Especially on games.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. First off, love all y'all are amazing. But this is to Brandon and Johnny. Out of all the roles you've done, what do you think are your favorite characters out of everything you've worked on?
Like them all. It's hard
So
to choose my
hard.
favorite child.
I think recently, just in my head, have been like Alear from Fire Emblem and Gyotaro from Demon Slayer. They're pretty recent for me.
Gotcha.
So I think about them a lot.
All right. Thank you. Y'all are amazing.
And this will be the last question. We have 1 minute left. Again, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to rush you. I'm
Sorry,
sorry.
guys.
My question is for you, Johnny. Can you say my favorite quote from Code Geass? It's what
Oh,
hooked
dear.
me into being a fan of you.
Okay.
It is. Sorry. It is. I, Lelouch v. Britannia, command you. Now all of you die.
So it's so dark though.
I love it though.
Can I adjust it a little? I, Lelouch v. Britannia, command you. Dance. It's nicer, right?
I'll take it. Thank you.
Different one. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you didn't get a chance to ask us a question, we're at our tables. So thank you so much. I need to plug this. There's Ranger Stop. If you're a Power Ranger fan, I've got free weekend passes. But please come by, say hi to us, and thank you again for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.